Imagine stepping outside on a cold night expecting the usual sting of winter air. But the moment you breathe in, it feels like the cold is reaching deep inside your chest. Not the winter we know now, where we complain about drafts in the living room or the walk from the car to the door, but a cold that feels almost alive. A cold that pushes through wool, through wood, through stone. A cold that decides who makes it to spring and who doesn't. That was winter for most people in the medieval world. No heaters humming in the background. No grocery stores stocked with comfort food. No thick windows keeping the wind out. Just people huddled together in huts that rattled with every gust, praying the fire wouldn't die overnight. And the strange part? They accepted it. Year after year, they braced for a season that tested everyone. Children, adults, animals, even kings. Tonight we're heading back into that world, not to chase drama or disaster, but to understand what winter really meant when survival depended on cooperation, luck, and just enough hope to last until spring. Medieval winters weren't just a season. They were a force people lived around, feared, respected, and prepared for like a slow-coming enemy. Today, winter is an inconvenience. Back then, it shaped almost every part of life. How villages stored food, how families slept, how communities worked together, and even how stories were told around the hearth. But winter wasn't only about hardship. It also brought moments of closeness, resilience, tiny celebrations, and the sense that life never stood still. Even when the world outside was frozen solid, in this story, you're going to see winter through the eyes of the people who lived it. The poor, the noble, the farmers, the children. Even the kings who found themselves humbled by the season. If you enjoy slipping into history like this, quiet, slow, and atmospheric, go ahead and stick around for future episodes. It helps me know you like these calm, deep dives into the past. And if you ever want to share where you're listening from, I always love reading that. Different countries, different time zones, but somehow the stories pull us all into the same room. For now, settle in, get comfortable, and let's walk together into a winter far harsher than anything most of us will ever know. When medieval winter settled in, it wasn't a polite chill. It crept through wooden walls, under doors, through thatched roofs, and into the bones. Houses had no insulation. A single fire had to heat an entire home, a weak flame battling the wind, whistling through every crack. Families slept packed together, not for affection, but survival. Body heat was their insulation. Livestock sometimes slept inside too, filling the room with warmth, and a smell no one bothered complaining about. Comfort wasn't the goal. Staying alive was, and no matter who you were, the cold found you. Even nobles wrapped themselves in layers and still shivered in stone chambers that felt more like caves than palaces. When the last autumn harvest ended, everyone held their breath. The winter months weren't measured by days, but by how long the food stores would last. Families rationed everything: beans, dried peas, salted meat, hard bread that sometimes needed soaking just to chew. Fresh vegetables? Out of the question. Fruit? A luxury from another life. People ate what kept them alive, not what sounded good. Some winters were especially brutal. Crop failures, storms, frozen roads. They could turn a difficult season into a deadly one. Parents watered soups until they were barely more than warm broth. Children went to bed hungry, hoping morning would bring something more. And yet, sharing happened. Neighbors fed neighbors when disaster struck. It wasn't charity. It was survival through community. Winter didn't come alone. It brought sickness with it. Imagine smoky air trapped indoors with a dozen people, fires burning day and night. The walls damp, the floors cold, no understanding of germs, no medicine that actually worked. Just a mix of superstition, prayers, and hope. A cough in December could turn into a funeral in January. Influenza, pneumonia, fevers, they spread fast in cramped spaces. Children and the elderly were always the most vulnerable. And even nobles who lived in larger homes weren't safe. Cold stone walls and limited ventilation meant sickness travelled without effort. Doctors tried bleeding, herbs, and warm wine. Some treatments helped, some made things worse.
Most simply did nothing, yet somehow people kept going.
Kept working,
Kept tending their fires.
kept pushing through the ache in their chest because they had no other choice. Winter travel in the Middle Ages wasn't adventurous. It was terrifying. Roads turned to mud or ice, snow covered everything, and darkness fell early. A traveller could lose their path within minutes if a storm rolled in. A wrong turn could mean freezing to death before morning. Entire villages went months without seeing outsiders.
Merchants stayed home.
Messengers moved slowly. Even armies hesitated because winter didn't care about politics. It cut down anyone. Only those desperate or brave ventured far from home, and many never returned. Even in the harshest months, people found ways to lift their spirits. Nights were long, so storytelling became an art. Families sat around the fire as someone recited tales of saints, heroes, tricksters, or ancestors. Songs filled smoky rooms.
Laughter echoed louder than the wind outside, and then there were celebrations.
Winter wasn't joyless. Festivals like the Feast of St. Stephen gave people a brief escape from the monotony. Even the poorest shared small treats, drank warm ale, and laughed like they hadn't in months. For one night, the rules loosened. Social ranks softened. The community became one big family, wrapped in winter, but resisting it together. These moments didn't fix hunger or cold, but they reminded people why they kept pushing through both. Winter wasn't just cold, it was dark, deeply, overwhelmingly dark. Days were short.
Nights dragged on.
Without clocks or electricity, people lived by the sun, and the sun wasn't generous in the colder months. Moods slipped. Worry grew. People whispered fears they kept hidden during the warmer seasons. Will our food last? Will our children stay healthy? Will this storm stop?
Will we see spring?
Mental exhaustion was as real as physical fatigue, and yet the rhythm of routine, tending the fire, feeding animals, mending clothes, preparing meals, kept people grounded. Structure was survival. When the first thaw arrived, it wasn't dramatic. A small drip from an icicle, a patch of ground peeking through the snow, a day that felt slightly less cold, but those tiny changes felt monumental. Villages came alive. Farmers checked the soil.
Animals stretched in the weak sunlight.
Children ran through the mud without caring about the mess. The first green shoots breaking through the earth were more than plants. They were proof that winter could be defeated, that the world hadn't forgotten them. Surviving winter didn't make people heroic.
It made them human.
And in that age, humanity was its own kind of triumph. Thank you for walking through that long, cold season with me. Medieval winters were harsh, unforgiving, and often tragic. But they also revealed the strength and stubborn hope people carried inside them. If this quiet journey through the past felt calming or eye-opening, feel free to join me again next time. Until then, stay warm, stay safe, and may your nights be kinder than theirs ever were.